Hello, I am Ashley Warner, the Director of Education and Community Engagement at Performing Arts Houston. Welcome to our Creative Chat series. These are conversations between artists that offer you an inside peek at the artistic vision and creative process of the artists presented by Performing Arts Houston. They are meant to connect you with the artists and other fellow art lovers. Today's chat will spotlight Latin American recording artist, actor, and composer Ben Chavez, a 24-25 season New Now awardee. Ben will be chatting with former New Now awardee Harrison Guy, activist, choreographer, and the founder of Urban Souls Dance Company. New Now is our Houston Artist Commissioning Project, an initiative launched in 2020 to promote Houston artists by supporting the creation of new work across all performing arts disciplines. On March 6th and 7th, in the Wortham Center's Cullen Theater, Performing Arts Houston will present Ben's world premiere of Last Day County Fair, a music commission that tells the story of a young man struggling with his identity in a small town that doesn't understand him. The piece asks us to love harder, to celebrate life and one another. Tickets are on sale now and feature a pick your price payment structure. This means that when you purchase a ticket, you decide what you pay. If you want to pay $50 for your ticket, we are thankful for your purchase and we hope you enjoy the show. If you want to pay $0 for your ticket, we are just as thankful for your purchase and we want you to enjoy the show. With the aim of removing financial barriers, New Now's Pick Your Price payment structure encourages all those who support Houston art to come to the show and celebrate the talent of these brilliant artists. After the chat, head to the Performing Arts Houston website to reserve your tickets.
Hello, I am Harrison Guy, and this is a Performing Arts Houston Creative Chat. I am here with Ben Chavez, one of the 2024-2025 New Now recipients. How are you doing, Ben?
I'm doing really well, Harrison, and it's super great to be here chatting with you. It's actually an honor. I've spent some time looking at all that you are up to in Houston, and I'm just happy to be here with you.
Fantastic. So I don't know you, so I would love to know a little bit more about you. So can you share a little bit about like your upbringing and your family, kind of like what shaped you and who you are?
Sure. So I was actually born and raised in northern New Jersey. I'm not from Houston originally, but I'll get to that part in a minute. I was born and raised just outside of Manhattan, and so I was always enriched with the New York City art scene growing up. My parents exposed me to music from a very early age. I started playing piano when I was 3 years old, and that kind of lit a fire in me. And I've been playing piano since then, and have been inspired by piano greats like Elton John, Stevie Wonder, Billy Joel, and in today's times, I really love PJ Morton, who kind of has an R&B pop soul kind of feel. Those styles influence the music that I make. So I grew up listening to those folks, and also working as an actor, singer, dancer. I love wearing different hats, and that's what I think keeps me passionate and stops me from getting bored at any time in my life.
All right, cool. And with that upbringing and some of that you're talking about in your early days, like what stands out as some of your core values that came out of the type of upbringing you had?
I think where the arts are concerned, I was always passionate about art that I could connect with myself. And, I grew up in faith, but I don't consider myself super religious. However, I do love when art has the power to minister. And I think that growing up, things that I would encounter either in film, movies, TV, in music were the things that really got me excited to be an artist. And so now, kind of in my adulthood, I'm excited to create those works for other people.
Fantastic. And I'm imagining outside of your family, your community, and um, can you tell me a little bit about the community that you grew up in?
Sure. I grew up mostly in a musical theater world. I studied at a school that was founded by a couple who performed in the original production of West Side Story on Broadway back in the 1950s. And they were kind of like my second parents. They helped instill in me self-confidence, and they helped me find my own voice and validated me in times when I didn't feel like I was validating myself. And so they were huge pillars in my upbringing, as well as my creative collaborators as a child. There's something about studying arts as a child that has a long-term impact. And those kids that I grew up performing with, I'm still in community with today. And I'm the godfather to one of my best friends' children that I grew up dancing with. And I just think that that's the impact that art really has on young people. It has the opportunity to create long-term positive effects.
Love that.
Yeah.
So you said that your art story kind of started when you were like 3, so very early on. But in those early days, can you think of a moment of creativity or any moment where you just knew that this is what you wanted to do?
I would say I I was always in the spotlight as a child, and I never had any I didn't really have formal classical lessons as a pianist. I learned by listening to pop rock musicians, and so some of my fondest memories as a child involve family and friends being over our house, and I would just perform concerts, I felt called to share music with people, and I was always so touched by how people felt and received music. And so I've kind of kept that with, in my soul and in my spirit today, and that's why I'm happy to be doing things like this.
All right, cool. Awesome. And then we grow up, we get a little older. And so you graduated from the Tisch School of the Arts, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And what was that like? So that's on your collegiate level. What kind of things come to mind when you think about what shaped you around that experience?
It that experience was so it was so powerful for me, and what I think sets the program that I studied in apart from others is the diversity within the staff. I would say probably a good 85% of the staff in my program were Black artists. And that had such a deep and powerful impact on me. And it influenced and inspired the art that I was creating. Studying R&B, soul, and gospel greats has had kind of an effect on the music that I make. And I love celebrating that culture. Not to mention studying arts in such a major arts hub of the world, leaving your classroom doors at NYU only to be able to encounter art on the street, on the subway, going to see, commercial theater and off Broadway theater. It was such an amazing incubation tank for studying and creating art.
Fantastic. And I think that sometimes we have these moments, at post college, right, when we're getting into our career, where we certainly have to find our way and figure it out. But oftentimes we have these big moments or big breaks, as people call them. What comes out as like after college, you're in your career and you're like, oh, this is a big break?
An opportunity that changed my life and was a huge break was I had the opportunity to go on tour with the Broadway show Aladdin. And I was in that as a performer. Not only was it huge for me in my career, it was just a huge leap for me as a professional artist. But it changed my life in a couple huge ways. Firstly, I got a tighter grasp on my love for songwriting. And as I was traveling around the US and Canada, I would kind of give myself assignments to create new pieces in every city. And so I left my touring days with this whole collection of songs, and some of them that I still perform to this day. And also, it was on that tour that I ended up in Houston in the first place. We played at the Hobby Center here downtown. This was back in 2019, and I was exploring town, and I ended up encountering an incredible gentleman who I connected with, and we formed a relationship. And as soon as our show had to unfortunately close down because of COVID, I decided to come to Houston to move in with my now husband. And that's how I came to call Houston home, all because of a creative traveling experience. And for the past 5 years, Houston has been home to me. I absolutely love this city. I would never have imagined that I would live in Houston coming from New York City. And now that I'm here, I kind of can't see myself living anywhere else.
Okay, so let's unpack that a little bit. Yes, I could never see myself living in Houston after living in New York City. What does that mean?
It's wild. It's wild. Um, you think living in New York that it's New York or bust. And of course, New York is, like I said, a central hub for so much arts and culture. And what I love about Houston is that it's a big city with small town vibes. It still has that quaint community feeling. And there's also different ways of thinking here, which I think is important in an arts creative tank to have different opinions, some that you may butt heads with, some that you may really agree with. And I love that I have encountered a common respect for different views and ideologies in this city. Not to
Yeah.
mention, folks who live here are so generous with their support towards the arts on large and small scales. And I think when people who don't live in Houston or who have never been here, when they hear the name Houston, I don't think people associate this with a big artsy city. It's one
Yeah.
of the most artsy places I've ever encountered in my life. And and that's why I can't see myself living anywhere else because I feel like the city has opened up so many doors for creativity.
Yeah, I think it's a wonderful city to be in, period. But particularly as an artist, I think so too. I kind of like it because I went to the A school in New York and spent some time in New York before I came back to Houston. And what I really like about Houston is the people. And I also love that it's not oversaturated with a lot of things. So you can have ideas and people will support you, and those ideas can happen. You don't have to feel like there's five others of those things and there's competition.
Yeah.
So it feels like you can really, really dream something and then make it happen. So I love that. But speaking of the people, what's your community like here now that you're here? You call this home. Who's around you? Who's your tribe that keeps your creative juices flowing and keeps you electric and creating? Who's your community?
Well, gosh, it's there's so many amazing artists here that I've had the chance to work with, and I have found myself getting really deeply plugged into the theater community. I live just about 10 minutes away from Theater Under the Stars, and I've had the opportunity to work there and form bonds with artists there. But I would say what I have come to enjoy is working with young up and coming artists here. And I do a lot of music directing. I work primarily at a theater company called Queensbury, which is in City Center out west. And I encounter so many incredibly talented and imaginative young artists, starting at age, 6 and all the way up to high school age. And that's what fuels me. That's what I get inspiration from them, because it brings me back to when I was their age. And it also educates me on different ways of thinking and different things that happen on social media and different ways of creating. So I love, working with the young people. I think that that's so exciting.
Yeah, so I love that. I'm a huge advocate for young people and their voice. And two things we have in common is Theater Under the Stars. I choreographed Little Mermaid there, and
Work!
I taught dance at Queensberry.
Oh
So
my gosh.
yeah, absolutely. I had
Small
really,
world.
yeah, very small world. Really enjoyed the students there. All right, so thinking about your community, where you are now, something that I noticed immediately when I read about your project for New Now, was the courage that you put your queer identity out in the front. And I thought that was really fascinating. I would love to know, how does one end up in a place where they can just so openly express through their art um, your queer identity?
Yeah, I think that that's really the question that surrounds this piece. It took
Hmm.
me a long, long time to come to terms with not only my queer identity within myself, but also to get to a point where I was open to sharing it with my friends and eventually my family. Um, and now that I find myself in a place where I'm celebrating loud and proud my queer identity, I'm married to a same-sex partner, and I think I have become passionate about advocating for especially young queer people and telling queer stories that young people can relate to. Because I remember being, an early teenager feeling like I was all alone and had no one to relate to and no one to, vent my feelings to. And so now that I have kind of come out the other side, I love to create works that people, queer and non-queer can connect to because we all live in the same world and we all share the same space. So queerness is so embedded in this piece. I think my inner demons say, well, there's already so many queer stories out there. But my partner reminded me yesterday, we can never tell enough queer stories,
Yeah.
And especially in times like today where rights are being questioned.
Mhm.
Um, I think there's never a better time to pump out more queer stories. And
Yeah.
I'm excited about that part. It's there's always an element of fear and jitteriness to it, but ultimately I care more about people's hearts.
I love that. I love that. I agree with you. I don't think we can tell enough of any marginalized group or whose stories have not been told enough. I think in our lifetime we will never run out of the need for to see and hear those stories. So I agree with you so much on that. I'm super excited to hear more about Last Day County Fair and just tell us how do you explain what Last Day County Fair is?
It has ebbed and flowed. The process has shifted over the past year. What it is in this iteration of Performing Arts Houston, it's a 30-minute collection of songs that have stories in between the songs. And thus far, I've created songs that are all separate from each other in my career. I've released songs that are all just kind of independent of other songs. And this was the first time that I created sort of a concept album experience where there's a through line that connects all the songs. And it's about a young artist who lives in a small town that we don't quite identify. It's we all know what it feels like to grow up in a tight-knit community where everyone knows your business. And this young queer artist is kind of the only musician in his town, and he doesn't have many people. He doesn't really have any people to relate to as far as being a queer young person. And he is the headlining performer at the county fair, which is like the Super Bowl of this region. And we kind of take a look at his inner struggles coming out as queer, and also how the society sees him. And there's sort of a ticking clock in the piece, which I think many queer folks feel. Like I have to tell my parents, or I have to release this bit of information, or else something will happen, or else something bad could happen. There's always an element of like, what if this bomb explodes? And in this piece, we are at the final day of the county fair, and this artist has lost touch with his parents. And we are waiting to see if his parents decide to show up for him at this final day of the county fair.
Ah, okay. So yeah, so that was that was going to be my next question actually, is where did the title come from? Because it's a great title, but it makes me very curious, and so I was very curious about exactly what the title meant. But now that wow, that's great.
So yeah, it's set up in a concert setting, and we know that he has some space reserved in the audience for his folks, and we don't know if they're going to come. And I
Mm,
think that a lot of queer people can resonate with that because you sometimes don't know if your people are going to show up for you.
mhm.
And some people sink into such deep, dark depression that they even question what the future of their own life holds.
Yeah,
That's
I
hard.
love that. Yeah, I love that so much. I'm so excited to see it. So, I mean, you've worked on and had experience in with such large scale productions, right? Have you found a way to bring that to your work with New Now because you'll have access to so much in this space that it will be presented in, or are you keeping it simple so that we can really focus on the story? What's your vibe?
It's funny because I've operated on such large theater scales with all lights and costumes and all this kind of stuff, but I am a really kind of bare bones simple guy. And so I'm
Okay.
going with it with a bit of a simpler layout with pops of color and shimmer and sparkle.
Okay.
I really would love for the music to be at the heart of this piece and
Okay.
for people to be able to connect with the lyrics and the stories. So it's going to be a little more bare bones, but I'm going to empower the audience to use their imagination to paint
Mhm.
pictures on some of the things that they're hearing about. I have some fabulous artists, so there'll be a little bit of, a little bit of movement involved. And I've never had the experience of working with, lighting and sound on my own work. So I'm excited to get into this space and work with the fabulous designers at Performing Arts Houston to kind of add some, some excitement to this piece.
Yeah, I think that's one of the beauties of this project. Yes, that it's focusing on local artists, but also that we get to play in such a big space with amazing designers. So I can't wait to see what you all come up with.
I think
Um,
I would love to actually ask you, what are going into the process once you kind of get into show week, what are some things that you didn't expect, things you didn't anticipate, or things you wish you would have known? What are some pieces of advice that you can impart?
Yeah, I think it's kind of like, once we've done this at this level, it's typically the same kind of thing, all over again. I mean, we were in a new space, so of course it was interesting to adapt to the space. The one thing I did not expect was how great the staff would be at the theater. By far, one of the best teams I've worked with in a space, and the support. It just feels like everyone wants your show to be amazing, and that
Mm,
feels really so it really felt collaborative. It's a quick in and out for your time that you're there, but I that just kind of overwhelmed. I didn't expect that because, as you know, it could be very different from space to space.
sure.
So you may go in already ready with a plan because it might be like this. And it was really easy just to put shoulders down and to feel at ease and just feel positive. And the and the spirit and energy was really great. So I didn't expect that, honestly, but I was so happy that that's how it turned out.
That's awesome. Were you on stage in your piece as well?
No, I wasn't on stage. So it was even more collaborative for me because I'm really, you know, making the work, right? I'm really external. So I really got to spend a lot of time with the team and really get that support.
That's exciting.
Yes.
I would love to see, I did some digging for some footage of this, and I'd love to kind of, see if there's a way I could watch the performance
Yeah,
because
yes.
it
I'll
sounds.
send Yes, it was great. It was we talked about big breaks earlier, and those can be defined in many different ways. But that was a special magical moment in time for me, and I think that I've been dreaming bigger probably ever since. Like I
Wow.
just, yeah, I can't go back. Sometimes you just feel like we do this all the time, so we just kind of get used to it. And sometimes even with being creative, you're on autopilot. But that was just a shift in like, what else could we do that's maybe bigger and better? And so. Yeah, it's helped me to dream a little bit bigger, for sure.
That's incredible. Do you feel like you still have a deep connection with Performing Arts Houston after the process too?
Oh, absolutely. I have my Performing Arts Houston pen right here on my desk. But I've always loved Performing Arts Houston. And I'll be very honest and say I always was like, they say they bring world class, artists to the stage, but that can be Houston people. I love that it's so many world renowned people and companies that, you get to see right here at home. But I have dreamed a dream of Performing Arts Houston being more invested in local artists, and I've honestly complained about it for a very long time. So I was so excited about New Now. Not even for me, honestly. Just I knew what it was going to do just for the amazing artists. You started out by talking about Houston and New York, and like Houston has it is kind of what you were getting at. And we just need the space. Like if you open
Yeah.
the door, we got it. Just put us on the stage and we got it. So I was super excited about New Now, but I've always kind of supported performing arts and loved going to see the performances because they have such a strong dance um,
Right.
calendar. I've always kind of supported them for a very long time, actually.
That's great. I think too what is special about this particular event is that it's pay what you can. And
Yeah.
that element of it really blew me away. Not
Yes.
only just the uplifting of local artists, but also allowing anyone to be able to come in, no matter what your financial status is. And
Yes.
I hope for more programs like that in this town as well.
Yeah, accessibility. Yeah, I think that what is so there's so many layers to this, but I think when you open the door for local artists, you have to provide a way for them to bring their people along as well. And, our local audiences may be used to either a free show or a show that's very on the low end ticket wise. And so to still be able to come see it once it's on this amazing stage is so amazing. But I also think that's a very Houston thing. I just think that Houston is very generous in that way and kind of thinks about the full 360 of the thing. So I love that.
Yeah, I love that too. I think that that caters to sort of the small town energy that I was talking about earlier.
Absolutely.
You
Absolutely.
know?
Well, I'm super excited to see your show, and I saw you doing a little bit of choreography, so that makes me, as a choreographer, excited to see some movement. But I want to ask you one more question before we end here. It's about afternoon now. Are you already working on something? I hate when people ask me this, but I really do. Such a bad question. But I do want to know if, because you've done this before, so you may have space to be thinking of your next thing. Do you have any idea of what's next for you?
Well, what I've learned working in this process is that I have bigger dreams for this piece beyond this iteration.
Oh,
And
yes.
I'm so glad to have this opportunity because it helped me kind of bust the door open and share something, you know? As artists, and I'm sure you can identify with this, we overthink all these things and sometimes give ourselves a million reasons why we shouldn't go through with something. And,
Mhm.
being accepted for this opportunity, it's like, well, you got a show on the 6th and 7th. And
Yeah.
so let's share something of yourself and know that it doesn't have to end here. And
Hmm.
so I would say that after this, I have so many visions of expanding this. I'm doing a 30-minute segment of this, but I would love for this to be double that in
Hmm.
volume. And so I would like to start planning for a full album release of this music and
Oh, I love that.
see if this could be turned into a musical or a film. And also find ways to get movement more involved in this. So I may be calling you.
Oh, please do. I was literally going to say before we got off that we must work together at some point. But I
Please.
love what you're saying. Let's see how many lives this work can have, right? A lot of times we feel like, oh, we did it and put it away. But I like that you're open to that. Final question is, what is your dream for Houston arts, for the Houston arts scene of Houston? What's your dream for us?
Wow. I think that it would be nice to have a dedicated space in the main downtown area that is solely dedicated towards new work. I know that there are small pockets around the city that have new work um, uh, things planted in their season, but I would love to have a space that's just completely dedicated to new work of all types, music, dance, film, something.
I love
Um,
that.
and maybe something like that exists and I don't know about it. But
Mhm.
it would be great to have a place that's just dedicated to new work.
Dedicated to new works. I love that. What a dream. And as we know in Houston, dreams can happen. So you put it out there. So I feel like it definitely will manifest. Um, so thank you for your time. I'm so excited to see the show. I hope everyone gets tickets to see Last Day County Fair. I know I'm gonna be sitting with my arms folded, waiting to see if these parents show up to get in those empty seats. Now that I know what it's about. But I'm so excited and congratulations. I hope
Thank
that you
you.
are also taking time to just celebrate yourself. It's a major achievement. And can't wait to see the show. So everyone get your tickets and support all of the artists. And thank you for your time. Any last words you want to say?
Well, I'd love to know, Harrison, if there's something of yours that people can come see anytime soon as well.
Oh, that's a great question. So I have a show February 27th and 28th at the Hobby Center. And I'll be premiering a work about Barbara Jordan. So I love to do works about Houston legends and icons. And so Barbara Jordan is a figure that I just am obsessed with. And so we'll be doing a work about her.
Awesome. It's in my calendar now, so hope to see you there.
All right, good. Well, I'll see you at your show.
All right, thanks, Harrison.
Thank you.